All right, it is 7 o'clock, January 19th, 2021. I'm being reminded right here. There we go. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So welcome to the Clayton City Council meeting for January 19th, 2021. We'll call the meeting to order, and we will start with our wonderful video. Take it away, Janet.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being webcast on the City of Clayton's website. The mayor will call upon its council, presenters, staff, and other speakers by name and ask that they speak clearly and state their name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via webcast and Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. Telephone attendees will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their name, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received by Clayton City Clerk by 5 p.m. today will be entered into the record, but will not be read out loud. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they are free to do so and should raise their hand and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. The chat feature is not active. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date.
And an oxygen mask will drop from the compartment above you. Okay, so welcome everybody. I see everybody's here and hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend. We're going to call the roll, Janet.
Councilmember Diaz.
Here.
Councilmember Tillman.
Present.
Councilmember Juan. Vice Mayor Cloven. And Mayor Wolf.
I'm here. Okay. And now it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Diaz. Now we're moving on to item number 3. It's our consent calendar. Does anybody have anything they want to pull? Okay. Seeing nothing. We have a movement.
Move approval, Diaz.
Do we have a second?
Tillman will second.
So first is Diaz, second Tillman. I'm sorry, Janet. You take the roll. Take the call.
Sure. Councilmember Diaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Tillman.
Yes.
Councilmember Juan. Vice Mayor Cloven.
Yes.
And Mayor Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Okay. And recognitions and presentations. We have a proclamation declaring February 2021 as Black and African American History Month. And we have the proclamation here. Do I need to read that now, Raina, or?
You may read it, or it was requested by Councilmember Tillman. If Councilmember Tillman, if you would like to cede that floor to her to read it, then you could certainly do that if she would like to.
Okay. Councilmember Tillman, would you like to do that?
I can.
All right.
Just wanted to give a little bit of background on the importance of why I was doing this. So several residents had asked that this be a proclamation
after the rally that we had on June 5th in downtown. There were two, one on the June 2nd, one on June 5th. And then after Councilmember Diaz and Commissioner Gavidia had Hispanic Heritage Month, which we were all pleased to see back in the fall, I decided that I wanted to actually bring this forth as well as some others, which is why I had asked for this to be put on the agenda, and then to find out what other proclamations had taken place in the city in previous years. So that'll come up at a later meeting, but since this is coming up in February, we decided to start with this one first, so I will read it. I'll also state that I was reached out by a lady who is actually a liaison with the school district, Mount Diablo Unified School District, and she is on an education commission for Pleasant Hill. And she was the one who had actually reached out because she had given a slew of these for different cultural or heritage days or months for this year to the city of Pleasant Hill, asking them to sign off on this. And I'm not sure if she's going to other cities or not, but she had reached out to me, knowing that I'm involved in not only Clayton Speaks, but I had inclusion or inclusivity as part of my talking points during my campaign. So that's also another reason why I brought it up. So now I will read it. Declaring February 2021 as Black and African American History Month. Whereas in 1926, famous historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson established what would become Black History Month to bring special awareness of African American accomplishments and contributions to American history. And whereas African Americans have contributed to the rich fabric and diversity of America and have made significant strides in civil rights, law, medicine, technology, business, food, music, literature, education, sports, entertainment, journalism, and the arts. And whereas in 1619, the first documented enslaved Africans arrived at the English colonies at Old Point Comfort, Virginia, and on the English ships White Lion and Treasurer. And these individuals were sold in exchange for provisions, while others were transported to Jamestown, where they were sold. And whereas between 1863 and 1865, hundreds of Black men fought in the American Civil War and died as enlisted men in the United States colored troops, seeking life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a free people. And whereas after 1865 and the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution, the complete freedom and civil rights granted to previously enslaved men, women, and children was subverted by brutal Jim Crow laws, preventing their ability to live as fully free citizens and pursue life, liberty, and happiness as guaranteed to white citizens. And whereas between 1954 and 1968, African American activists, in particular women, spearheaded the civil rights movement, fought for social justice, constitutional rights, organized sit-ins, workshops, boycotts, and grassroots campaigns. And whereas attacks on the 14th and 15th Amendments continue to persist in the 21st century for African Americans, and the city of Clayton devotes its for the 21st century for African Americans, and the city of Clayton devotes its resources to fulfilling the promises of the Emancipation Proclamation and the United States Constitution. And whereas today, African Americans continue to make gains in public office, education, and professional fields, and as entrepreneurs, as well as fight for an inclusive vision of liberty, justice, and equality for all. And whereas the city of Clayton, California will join with the nation in celebrating the 95th National Black History Month by honoring the essential contributions, sacrifices, and accomplishments African American and Black people have made to the U.S. as part of American history. Now, therefore, this is weird for me to read. I, Carl Wolf, Mayor, on behalf of the entire city, Clayton City Council, proclaim February 2021 as Black and African American History Month in Clayton, California, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens.
I certainly do. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we don't need a vote or anything on this, do we? Just move on. Good. Okay, so we're moving on to reports now. By the way, thank you, Holly. The Planning Commission, I don't see who's reporting on that here on my agenda, so.
Mayor, you do have a hand raised. I don't know if that was on the presentation, a comment on the presentation. So Janet, perhaps you can let, now we have two, Whoop. All right. If you have your hand raised now, I'm going to assume you wish to speak on the proclamation. If you wish to speak on a later item, if you could put your hand down. So I still see one hand up. So, you've already got Nia Williams. In the room. Okay. So, Janet, if you could start the timer, and Nia Williams, you are welcome to unmute yourself. Thank you. And begin your comments.
Hi, thank you. So I would like to speak to that. My name is Nia Williams, and I'm here to talk a bit about a proposed comprehensive curriculum policy at my school, which is Clayton Valley Charter. I'm here as a representative of Diversify Our Narrative, which is a movement whose goal is to implement diverse and inclusive texts at CV and encourage the growth of a strong, educated generation while combating racism and ignorance. Clayton Valley is attempting to pass a proposal that would prevent any new curriculum from being introduced past the mid-year for the remainder of the 2021 school year and the entirety of the 21-22 school year. Clayton Valley currently has an active chapter of Diversify that's been trying to merge our curriculum with theirs since the first month of this current school year. As stated directly in the proposed comprehensive curriculum proposal, the development and adoption of any curriculum of quality is an intricate process. This is definitely rang true for my chapter of Diversify, as the process of getting new texts and history lessons fully approved and incorporated has been a long and difficult one, and we still aren't there. Because these changes require ample time and effort, this proposal would cause difficulty for anyone attempting to alter the curriculum in the remainder of this school year and the full span of the next. The official Clayton Valley mission statement says, Clayton Valley Charter High School will provide a positive, student-centered environment in which all students will be challenged academically and develop the skills and mindsets to graduate as successful, lifelong learners and productive, responsible citizens in a diverse society. This sounds great, but Clayton Valley students cannot be properly prepared to enter a diverse society without knowledge of said diversity, and the school shares the responsibility to teach that. Being my chapter's social media director, I talk to a lot of fellow students, and our school's curriculum has been described time and time again as whitewashed. In agreement with this, Clayton Valley is currently teaching close to nothing that meets Diversify Our Narrative's inclusive curriculum guidelines, and without change to the current curriculum, it will stay that way. And to reiterate, this proposal would directly combat any further actions taken by my chapter of Diversify Our Narrative. Things are constantly changing, and now is an especially tumultuous time, and we cannot push against the flow of things. I believe we have to move along with them. So today I came here in hopes of spreading the word on what my team and I, along with many supporters, believe to be a great injustice in motion. And we have an email blast going on addressed to members of the school board to express our discontent for the proposal. And if any of you are interested in supporting us, we'd be more than happy to share the necessary information. Thank you so much for your time and understanding.
Thank you, Nia. I think we have one more hand there. I thought I saw. Am I wrong? A CW. Is that me? Is that me? Cheryl Willis.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Cheryl Willis. Thank you so much for having me. I want to talk about a project that I'm excited to share and bring to Clayton. So it's called Rise Up Against Racism. It's a nonprofit started locally by 3 Walnut Creek moms this past summer. It's focused on change through sustainable initiatives. It's centering on families and education. It encourages anti-racist learning and bringing communities together to actively dismantle racism. They center on the idea that education can radically transform societies. One of the co-founders, Meg Honey, is a K-12 MDUSD alum, former social studies teacher at Northgate High, and MDUSD's Teacher of the Year in 2017. Their project is creating little free anti-racist libraries within our local communities. We have already built 4, with 4 more scheduled to install in the Bay Area. Anti-racist libraries are intended to open minds while inspiring lifelong learning and change. They are stories from diverse voices, and they provide our community with a vast collection of anti-racist books. The goal of these libraries is to bring our community together, create space for conversation about anti-racism, and provide access to children and adults books that elevate Black voices and helps inspire us to understand and actively dismantle racism. So how it works is I will partner with Rise Up Against Racism and become a steward to raise money to build the library in Clayton. Once the money is raised, Rise Up does the rest of the work. They build the library, they purchase books from Black-owned bookstores like Marcus Books in Oakland, and commission a local Black artist to paint and transform it into a beautiful piece of art for the community. So also with the money we raise through their CARE program, which is a one-for-one giving model, we will be able to provide an anti-racist library in an under-resourced community. The libraries are regularly maintained and updated by Rise Up Against Racism and will always contain books that focus on marginalized perspectives. So after brainstorming ideas for a location, we thought putting it in front of City Hall would be a secure and symbolic setting. So I'm here tonight to generate interest in support of this project. I'm hoping this is something we can work together to achieve. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Didn't hear the ending there. Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to speak? No other hands are up? Okay. So we'll move on then to our reports. And again, Planning Commission, I don't know who's giving that. Is that AJ Chipro today or someone else?
Vice Chair Terry Denslow should be making the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Mayor Wolf, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
Oh.
So the Planning Commission met on January the 12th. We had 3 items for discussion that evening. The first item was to approve meeting minutes for meetings in 10/27, 11/2, 11/24, 12/8, and 12/22. And so we had a rather robust discussion around the meeting minutes and the format of the meeting minutes. And ultimately, after both myself and Commissioner Outwall raised concerns about the specificity in the meeting minutes for the 12/8 meeting, which was the meeting where we discussed the Diablo Meadows project. After a very robust discussion, we as a group chose to table that item and ask the staff to pull all of the meeting minutes and review them and bring them back to the commission at a later date. So we have 4 of us on the commission now, as you realize. So there were 2 votes in favor, and Commissioner Outwall abstained from that vote. The next item of discussion was a clarification on a future agenda item. So previously I had asked for Director Fesky to bring forward a clarification around there's a memo, September 15th memo from HCD from Megan Kirby, Deputy Director, Division of Housing and Policy Development, regarding the Housing Accountability Act Technical Assistance Advisory. And there was a discussion during the Diablo Meadows project about the Housing Accountability Act that seemed to be potentially in conflict with the clarifications that the HCD memo had put forth back in September. So we had a discussion about a future agenda item where we will bring that back and discuss specifically the difference between subdivision D and subdivision J, and a clarification to the Planning Commission about when each one of those subdivisions apply or do not, so that we have that that insight for future housing development projects that are on our docket. The last item was a carryover item from our December 22nd meeting. So at our December 22nd meeting, Chair Chipro had recommended that going forward in 2021, that the Planning Commission goes through a rotation process to report out to the City Council. At the time, myself and Commissioner Otwall agreed with this, but Director Fesky had pointed out that Commissioner Gavidia had recused himself from that discussion. So we agreed to table that to our January 12th meeting. So that discussion, also a pretty robust discussion, and Commissioner Gavidia had raised some concerns about the rotation process. So in an effort to make peace within the commission, Chair Chipero and myself agreed that the two of us will rotate the responsibilities to report out to you, and Commissioner Altwall will serve as our backup going forward. And that was it. And we adjourned the meeting at 7:57 p.m.
Couldn't make it to 8?
Oh, we tried.
Thank you, Terry.
It was a very, very robust discussion on meeting minutes.
That's what it sounds like. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Trails and Landscape, they have not met all 2020, so nothing, Peter, nothing from Trails and Landscape. Okay. City Manager and Staff Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just one item for me to update on, and we've been putting this out as many places as we can. As Vice Chair Denslow just mentioned, we do have a vacancy on the Planning Commission. Currently, the process is scheduled to accept applications through this Friday, the 22nd. We can extend that a little bit. If there is a groundswell of interest, we will do so. The council is scheduled to interview candidates on February 2nd and seat someone hopefully at that meeting so that we can return to a 5-person planning commission on this very important topic. So spread the news far and wide. We are looking for good planning commission candidates, and we can make information available if anybody has any questions. And that is it for me this evening. Thank you.
No groundswell of excitement for this position yet, or?
I'm sure people are just waiting until the last minute to make a dramatic entrance.
Making sure. Okay, good. Thanks a lot. And that's it from City Manager and staff. Okay, thank you very much. City Council reports. Let's go around the horn. Let's start with Peter Cloven today.
Greetings. I done several things this past couple of weeks. I did attend the Mayor's Conference and listened to it. It's always good to get perspectives of mayors throughout our county. I also attended the new council member lunch via Zoom through the California League of Cities, or it's Cal Cities now.
What would they have on the menu?
Yeah, it's my brown bag lunch. It was not very exciting. I did go through 3 hours of training so far with our city council with Holly Tillman. 2 hours meeting the staff of all the various positions, and 1 hour with our city attorney learning about the Brown Act and other legal issues within the city. I'm still working with Laura Hoffmeister to put together a meeting with the Trails and Landscape Committee in February. I really wanted to get together with them, kind of get us kicked off this year so we know what we're doing and how we're supposed to do it. I know that I took the time on Saturday night to go up to Keller Ridge and Key Lock and kind of see the lay of the land for conversation later on tonight. I've spent a lot of time on emails and several topics this past couple of weeks. I think people are starting to figure out that that's the best way to get a hold of me, and I will respond to them, every one of them. And lastly, I'm scheduled to attend 18 hours of new council member training in the next week and a half on Thursday and Friday. So I will be busy. End of report.
Yeah, Thursday and Friday this week, and Thursday and Friday the following week, right?
Absolutely.
That's going to be interesting.
Yes, it will be.
Thank you. All right. Councilmember Tillman.
Peter and I are almost mirroring each other, so it's going to sound the same, but I also attended the mayor's conference as well, and had several meetings with the city attorney and the city manager, including the additional meetings with the city department heads, which was very informative. Thank you for setting that up, City Manager Schwartz. I also met with the residents on Key Lock Way. I went up there actually last night, just before sunset, just to kind of get a feel for what happens, and I'll talk about that more during that session, but it was very eye-opening to actually witness it in person. And then I've also shared several emails with a lot of the residents up there throughout the last couple of weeks, trying to prepare them for tonight and keeping them apprised of what was going on. I've been collaborating, as I mentioned a couple meetings ago, with some of the youth at neighboring schools, trying to prepare for a town hall. They wanted to meet with some local city council members. So I extended that to this council, as well as council members, city council members in Pittsburgh and in Concord, and asked them to share those with their networks. And I think that's it. I too will be attending all of the trainings that Peter will be attending these next 2 Thursdays and Fridays. Can't wait. And I also attended the newly elected luncheon to meet other local people who are newly elected. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wan.
Yeah, I mostly did email and phone calls with the constituents following some local legislation that's coming down the pike. SB 1120 got rebranded to SB 9, and so that is similarly terrible. And so I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the weeks and months to come. And that's about it. Oh, I also went up to Keylock and talked to people up there as well, but yeah, normal stuff.
Thank you. And Councilmember Diaz.
Also have been having a number of emails back and forth with the residents of Keylock and Keller Ridge, and also various telephone calls with other constituents on a variety of matters that are addressing and facing the city. I also attended the mayor's conference on the 7th, participated once again in the takedown of all the holiday decorations on Saturday the 9th, and we got it done within an hour and a half, and a good number of people came out from the community to do that. Then on Saturday, also, after taking down all the decorations, spent a good time on the phone with Mayor Dave Hudson from San Ramon. And Dave is a very passionate and knowledgeable person on housing versus jobs and the allocation thereof and so forth. And he's a good resource that we could use in the future for items that relate to that. He also suggested I talk with council member or vice mayor rather now, Newell Arnich over in Danville, also very knowledgeable. Not only is Newell an architect, but he's very much involved with Dave Hudson on these matters. And again, it was very interesting. Ultimately, they are questioning why the majority or the numbers of home allocations that this Contra Costa has received, when probably where the jobs are down in Santa Clara County, that's where they should be headed. On Wednesday the 13th, attended in person the Morgan Territory Community Association meeting. That organization is moving along very well, raising a lot of money, interestingly enough, to do training and purchasing of additional equipment to assist them in their mission. And then finally today had a meeting, first time in person with the city manager, talked over a lot of good issues and preparation, particularly for tonight, and met with the police chief as well on what will be a part of her presentation tonight on Keylock Way and Keller Ridge. Thank you.
And I, too, attended the mayor's conference, and I agree there are a lot of mayors out there, and after speaking with a couple of them over the last, 2 weeks or so, and listening to them at the mayor's conference, there are certainly a lot of concern with regard to those numbers that you were talking about with regard to housing. And so it's going to be an interesting year going forward at the mayor's conference. I attended a closed session special meeting of the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy. Also had some meetings with our city manager, regular emails and phone calls with constituents and citizens, especially regarding the Keylock Way, which we're going to be talking about today. Had socially distanced photo session with our first mayor, illustrious Bob Hoyer. And we're going to try to get he's going to be 100 on March 11th, and we're going to try to get his information and picture and things up to the Today Show and see what they'll do with that. And we'll be attending the Cal Cities Academy on this Thursday and Friday, and then next Thursday and Friday. And as Jim mentioned, all the people that we want to thank everybody that came out, take down the decorations downtown, our holiday decorations. And just a special shout out to our Troop 484, to those scouts who picked up all the Christmas trees for recycling. So that is my report. And we'll move on now to public comment. Non-agenda items. You'll get 3 minutes to speak on anything that is not on today's agenda. Do we have any hands up, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I don't see any hand. Oh, one just came up, and that is Gary Hood, and I will promote him to panelist.
Oh, he gets a promotion. We'll wait for him to unmute.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to speak briefly tonight on the last council meeting. I know Jeff Wan spent quite a bit of time writing a letter on the housing element and the numbers, and I know Holly was kind enough to interject some changes to that letter. I'd like to see if, I'm not asking for a response here because as we all know this is just public comment, but I'd like to know where we're at with that letter, and has that letter been sent off?
It's been signed, and we've sent it off now. Is that Raina? Raina's shaking her head, yes.
Okay, so I really wasn't looking for a response, but that's not normally how the public comment section works.
I know, but you got to take liberties once in a while.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to add my seconds back to the time clock, Mayor. Well, anyhow, I would like to also suggest, I know we talked about that and everybody was concerned, at least a few of the people on the council were concerned on the attitudes and the feeling that we might get from some other officials throughout the state of California. And my suggestion would be that we jump in with both feet and send that letter, a copy of that letter, to all the Contra Costa cities, encouraging them to join us and make our voices heard. I'm not sure why we're afraid to do that. It seems like we're wanting to put our little toe in the water, but as we all know, that does really nothing. Also, I think it was brought up that we talked about maybe introducing that letter at the next mayor's conference, and I'd like to know, were we able to get on that agenda? And if not, when could we get on that agenda to bring it up at the next mayor's conference? Because I think that would probably be an excellent time to go ahead and introduce that to the other mayors throughout the through the area. So I think it's time that we stop worrying about what people are thinking, and we really need to lead the way, because we are going to be affected by this housing element. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Do we have any other hands raised? No?
Mayor Wolf, Jenny Lewis.
Okay. Jenny Lewis, you are muted. Excuse me.
Good night. Good evening. I'm here again, but then I think I know a little bit trick. But first of all, I want to thank City Manager to clarify that the cannabis storage in City of Clayton for personal use is allowed. She clarified that, so now I feel a little bit safer to stay here using cannabis for my medical need. But here today, I want to request you please add that allowing cannabis cultivation for outdoor instead of just indoor. Can we add that into agenda so the council member can discuss? I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do we have anybody on the hand raised, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I do not have any other hands raised.
Okay, then we're going to close our public comment and move on. Public hearings, we have none. And now the big action item of the day, item 8A, Keller Ridge Drive, Keelock Way Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Recommendations. And this will be presented by our police chief, Warren.
Good evening. I am going to attempt to share my screen, and we'll do a PowerPoint and take it from there. Okay. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of summarize what's led us to here, and then I'll go into the recommendations. Some background information. Keelock Way and Keller Ridge are, their problems are interrelated, and I'll start with Keelock Way. There has been a long time concern about traffic and pedestrian safety on Keelock Way. It really came to be highlighted in October when a resident was struck by a vehicle and injured, and his dog was killed. And that really brought the safety issues to the forefront. The complaints from residents revolve around traffic safety, speeding, a general disregard for the safety of the residents by the people traveling in their cars on that street. And a lot of visitors are attracted to the cul-de-sac at the end of Keelock Way. And there are quality of life issues related to the cul-de-sac. It is a vista point that overlooks the Clayton Valley, and visitors oftentimes are leaving trash, creating noise, and participating in unlawful activities such as drug use, sex in vehicles, etc. Keller Ridge is the main road leading to Keelock Way. And so the residents have long complained about traffic safety on Keller Ridge, mainly speeding and cars running stop signs. And they see an increase in traffic related to visitors traveling to Keelock. So after the accident in October, we held a public ad hoc public safety committee meeting. And at that meeting, it was very well attended by residents of Keelock and Keller Ridge. We had a discussion about the police department, our staffing levels, and what we're doing to try and address the problem. And then I presented some ideas to the residents, and we talked about some actions that the council could consider. The main issue that we have is we have limited staffing for the police department, 2 officers on per shift, and a lot of residents want more police presence at Keelock. And given our staffing and needs elsewhere in the city, we can't devote much more time than we already do. Our officers know that Keelock is a problem area, and they have increased their presence up there. But 2 officers per shift limits us a bit. Another issue that I talked about at the meeting was the fact that oftentimes when the officers arrive after being called there by dispatch because of reported illegal activity, the visitors are gone, or the illegal activity is not witnessed by the officers, and that limits what we can do. So since that meeting, I've been researching the ideas that were brought forward by the public and by city staff. I held a briefing for the new ad hoc public safety committee since the council members changed. I gave them an overview and summary of what led us to where we're at today. And we talked about the different ideas that I'm going to present tonight. And so I think we're going to get into that right now. So I'm going to give you the options that are in the staff report. Since that time, a couple other options have come forward from the public, and I will touch on those, and then I'll open it up to questions. So the first idea that I want to talk about is installing a fence. And that fence would go right at the end of Key Lock, basically eliminating the access to the trail and eliminating the view. The reason that there is such high traffic volume up there is because people want to come look at the view and they want to access the trail. This was not well received by the residents up there. I think a lot of residents don't want to lose their view and they don't want to lose access to the trail. But the trail is accessible from multiple points not too far from here. And by installing a fence, it would really eliminate the problem. I learned that some residents are concerned that a fence would not withstand high winds, could be vandalized, etc. I have spoken with our public works, and a fence could be constructed out of a variety of materials, and we're pretty confident we could build a fence that would withstand normal wear and tear and weather. It could be wood, it could be cinder block. If you so desired, we could make it wrought iron or chain link to allow a view. That would restrict access to the trail, not necessarily access to people coming up to look at the view. Another reason that some were not interested in the fence is they believed that illegal activity behind the fence and on the trail would continue. That's certainly possible, but the complaints that we're getting from at the police department do not include the activity on the trail. It's the activity at the cul-de-sac that are generating the complaints. The next idea is the red curb. The previous city manager had the curb painted red at the end of Key Lock, and it's a 90-day pilot program. Since that red curb was painted, we wrote 47 tickets in the first month, and then in the last week and a half, we've written 6 additional tickets. So it is tapering off, but certainly people are still coming up to that access point. They're either choosing to park in the red because they don't care if they get a ticket, or they're just oblivious to the fact that there's a red curb, even though there is signage. The next idea is to put a roadway barricade across the bulb of Key Lock Way. If you see where the yellow line is and where the cars are beyond that tends to be the area that people congregate. By putting in a barricade and limiting the free space, again, we can discourage people coming up to that area because they wouldn't be able to get their cars close to the edge to look out over the view, and there would really be no place to stand around and congregate. To address the concerns of speeding both on Keller Ridge and Key Lock Way, residents brought up the idea of installing speed bumps. Those speed bumps could be installed on both or either street. They are a bit costly. They're around $10,000 a piece. They do work to slow down traffic to some degree, but they also slow down first responders. And I've heard other people say that people use the speed bumps as a raceway to kind of sail across them. So, but that is an option. Radar speed limit feedback signs are another tool that we could use on both Key Lock and Keller Ridge. These feedback signs, you see them in various cities, and they flash your speed as you approach them. They have been proven to reduce speeds. Some people will say that they don't believe that's true. I will say at least momentarily it makes people think about how fast they're going. And so you probably will get a majority of people slowing down, not everybody. The next idea is to install sign alert flasher rings at the stop signs at Keller Ridge and Golden Eagle and Keller Ridge and Key Lock Way. These are two intersections that we get frequent complaints of people running the stop signs. These are LED lights that are triggered by motion, And as a car approaches and breaks the radar plane, they would emit a light. It just adds to the conspicuity of the stop signs. And again, they have been proven to help with compliance. So these next two options are not in the staff report, but they were brought up to me, so I thought I would do a little exploring. I think that they're both valid options for you guys to consider. The first one is installing a sonic sound device at the Keelak Way cul-de-sac. And these are anti-loitering devices that emit a high-pitched sound. They have two different settings. You can set them so that they can be heard by everybody, or it can only be heard by younger people, generally 25 and under, and it has to do with, I guess, your ear development and I don't know, whatever transmits sounds in your ear. These are frequently used at parks. We do use them in other parts of the city. It is possible that we could install those at the end of Keelak to discourage people from congregating. You can put them on a timer, so we could select what time we want them to run, or we could run them 24 hours. The other idea that was brought forward was to install a motion sensor light. I talked with our public works maintenance supervisor, and it is possible that we could install a motion activated sensor light on the same light pole that already exists that would emit a bright LED light anytime a car breaks the plane there. That, again, kind of discouraging people from congregating because they would be under some bright light if they did. Okay, and the next few items that I'm going to touch on, and there's a lot of detail in the staff report, are the ones that the staff does not support or recommend for a variety of reasons, and I'll kind of run through those. There was an idea to make the Keller Ridge area at some point, Upper Keller Ridge, a gated private community that really only residents could access. That is not legal. There's case law that speaks to that, and if you need more details, Martin, I think, is prepared to weigh in. But I kind of quizzed our city attorney, and said, what if money weren't an issue? Could the residents buy the land and turn it into a gated community? And the answer is no. That gated communities are created at the conception of the housing development, not after the fact. And again, I'll let Martin, weigh in if you guys have legal questions there. Another idea was to enact a permit parking program similar to what we did on Regency. It is not being recommended here because we don't have a parking congestion problem. It really wouldn't solve the problem of people coming up to the cul-de-sac to look at the view and hike. Others brought up enacting new loitering laws. I think Martin can speak a little bit more to this as well, but it is not illegal to loiter in public places. It is illegal to commit unlawful acts. And loitering laws are vague and difficult to enforce and often are not interpreted by the courts as lawful. Some people brought up the idea of installing radar speed cameras. These are similar to what you see as red light cameras. They are legal in other states, but they are not legal in California. These are radar units that are fixed, mounted to a fixed post, and capture speeds of cars and take a picture of the license plate and driver and then issue a ticket. Not legal in California. Others brought up the idea of installing surveillance and or license plate reader cameras at the end of Keelak Way. And I've discussed in the staff report, these are both very expensive ideas. And, surveillance cameras have some limited uses. People have asked, why can't we install surveillance cameras and tie them into the police department IT system? Reality is we don't have staff that can monitor those cameras. And the mere fact of vehicles and people driving on public streets and being in public areas does not really necessitate a police response. And surveillance cameras could give us a false sense of security. because we really just couldn't actively monitor those. And then others kind of brought up the idea, well, why not have the camera and then we can investigate a crime after the fact. What is being reported up at Keller Ridge, Key Lock Way area, they are really infractions and minor crimes, drug possession, drug use. California has pretty much decriminalized those things. We are not seeing felonies and major misdemeanor crimes being committed up there. So the expense of cameras versus the what we would get, the value of them is very limited. And then lastly, there was a question about, well, could we just make the whole area a tow-away zone? The answer to that is there are towing laws on public streets. We have to have a legal reason to tow. On a private street, residents can put up no parking signs and call a tow truck. But for a public street, you have to have things like expired registration or other such violations. And quite frankly, towing vehicles up there probably would take a good hour of an officer's time. So you're really tying up an officer for a long period of time to tow a car for a parking violation. And then my last couple slides, I have some overview maps, and then I'll open it up to questions. So I just kind of wanted to point out the fact, if we look at this overview map, the trail system that people are, people are hiking on, and accessing from the end here at Keller Ridge, it's a pretty extensive trail system. And so once a car parks, really anywhere and gets out onto that trail system, it is really difficult for, an officer to go hike out and find them. There's been questions about, well, the park is closed after dusk and why aren't you issuing tickets? The reality is we don't have the staffing to go hike these trails to look for people to issue them, a ticket. One other thing that I've been told is there's a concern about visitors coming up to this area and lighting bonfires and causing, a wildfire. I will say that I'm only aware of one incident in about the last 5 years of anybody lighting anything on fire up on this area. And my officers tell me that that was one incident where a young visitor had come to a friend's house somewhere on Key Lock Way, and had learned how to twirl fire sticks and was attempting to show off to his friends. As far as other fires being lit out on the trail system, we are not aware of that. And then the last map is just really the problem area here at the end of Key Lock Way. And I'll pause here and open it up to questions.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the presentation. We're going to bring it back to the Council for questions of the Chief. And if you could unshare your screen there, we can see everybody.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There we go.
There we go. Thank you. So, questions from Council to the Chief.
I had a quick question regarding the last two options that you presented, which was the mosquito high-frequency sound, as well as the bright LED lighting. Mm-hmm. Both those seem like fairly inexpensive options for the most part. I know that we've used the mosquito high-frequency sound in city parks, Lydia Lane in particular, and I think downtown in the Grove historically. Yes. Is it still being used, and what has been public comment around that historically, just out of curiosity?
Yes, they're still being used, and I am not aware of any complaints regarding them.
And if we were to decide to go that route as an option, whoever chooses that, the 130-foot radius, I think is what you said in your presentation, is there children in the cul-de-sac that might be impacted from that radius, and we evaluated that?
Well, that idea was just presented to me this morning. So, beyond what I presented, no, we haven't done any outreach. I believe that there are young people that live in the home that is directly next to the cul-de-sacs. So, we'd probably have to go out and measure it. And, I don't know what's going to happen with that other home that's, right now not livable, but, it's fair to say that young people could live within 130 feet of that light pole.
It seems reasonable to believe that our primary concern here is mostly children or kids under 25 loitering in that particular section. So making it difficult or annoying for them to do so would be appropriate in my eyes. Just a thought.
Anybody else? Yes, Jeff.
The mosquito unit that was used in the Grove, there were actually several complaints about that unit. I don't remember the dates. I'd have to look it up. But I think if you look back at the minutes, back when we were capturing information on the minutes, there was discussion about the hours of operation of the ones on the Grove, and I think it may have not been firing at the right time, and so it was active during the day, which obviously at a public park is kind of counterproductive. And then I thought that we had discontinued use, so I wasn't aware that we were continuing to use those. But I hadn't heard anything in the last several years on that one. And you had Chief, you had put approximate costs of those things. I think it was $2,000 on the unit, on the sound unit, and there was $1,000 on the light unit. Did I remember that right?
Yeah, and the mosquito unit, I'm estimating $2,000. I think it retails for around $1,100, and then you need to buy a few components and have it installed. So probably ballpark $2,000. The LED light, again, I ballparked it. I just explored that idea this morning, and our maintenance supervisor talked to our electrician who says it's possible. And, I threw out that number 1,000 to 2,000, and he thought it was, reasonable estimate.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Holly.
I have a couple of questions for the chief. For the roadway barricades, where it would be cutting off kind of the bulb, what's to prevent the cars from parking next to that then? So if the goal is to keep people from parking up there and we put a barricade, it's no longer red now, even though they're still parking when it's red. But what's to keep the cars from parking up against that barricade and still accessing?
So that barricade is not a curb line, and so you're not allowed to park there. You would basically get the same kind of ticket that you get for a red curb. It would be a curb parking ticket, same fine.
Okay. And then for the I just wanted to address a question that Peter had asked about young children living in the area. I know that there is the home that's right at where the red curb begins. There are young children that live in that house. There are also a new family that just moved in behind the dilapidated house. That's a young family that lives there as well. They also have young children. I think a lot of the issues, I know we didn't get to that and we're trying to talk about the curb, but I think a lot of the issues stem from people being underneath the power line. The tower that's there is where they're all congregating. So if they're not parking their cars just to see the view and then leaving, they're actually parking there and going out to go hang out at the view, see it. So there's issues there with those families. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to address that we haven't thought of. I realize that the noise could deter them, but it's also going to impact the family that lives right there. So I'm not sure that's going to get us to where we need to get.
Right. My first thought is if we eliminate the access point, and I know, again, this isn't a real popular idea, but if we eliminate the access point at Key Lock, it's a much further walk for anybody to get to that view that you're talking about, the tower. It's a much bigger effort. Not to say people wouldn't do it, but they may choose to find a different place that's just easier to get to. But yeah, you're right that it's not going to stop people from going there if they want to. And yeah, I don't really have other solutions for that area.
Okay.
Is that all, Holly?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, back to those devices that deter or annoy, Chief, would you only need one of each, or would there be, because you're going to concentrate, I guess the aim is to concentrate it down at where problem area is and not put them into the entire cul-de-sac. Is that correct? Would you need, well, are you suggesting more than one of each, or is the lighting sufficient for just one to go on, or would you need multiple ones? Or expand on that a little bit for me.
Okay, so both the light and the mosquito device require electricity, and we only have one light pole at the end there, so I'm only proposing that we use the existing electricity from the light pole. I don't think we would need more than one for either. And the idea of maybe installing one down at the that PG&E tower, but I just don't think that's possible. I don't think that there is electricity there, and we'd have to get permission from PG&E anyway.
Right.
So yeah, my idea would be to just tap into the power at the existing light pole that's already on the cul-de-sac.
Got it. Because I think you mentioned in your report that mosquito device has a range of 130 feet, about
130 feet. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? I have a couple here. With regard to the barrier, what's the radius then that, for instance, a fire truck would need to turn around in that area?
Yeah, they would have to do a 3-point turn. They'd have to pull into that like driveway that leads back to the houses behind the one that's kind of falling down and make a 3-point turn. Fire trucks are very good at maneuvering, but we would have to be a little careful where we put those the barricade and not cut off the whole bulb to the driveway. We'd have to limit it a little bit.
And then it could be worse if someone was illegally parking there at the time, like Holly was saying, somebody parked up against that barrier, it shrinks that area even further. Sure. Okay, I'm going to wait on the rest of these. You guys asked a bunch of questions, so that's good. We're going to take public comment now. And
I
yes?
have one more question, actually.
Sure.
You had described speed bumps. Can you comment on the impact to emergency vehicles? Because on the run-up to key locks, like when you're going up Keller, there's already several speed bumps, like where the golf course crosses and whatnot. So I think, any vehicle that's coming up to this way has already passed several speed bumps. I don't remember the exact count. It's like 2, maybe 3, 2. And so I was hoping that you could comment on the impact to emergency services with speed bumps. And then if we were to do speed bumps, if there were recommended locations.
I think the real impact is it's going to slow down first responders. The police cars, we could pretty much traverse over there, a speed bump just as quick as any passenger car. It's the bigger vehicles, the fire trucks and the ambulances that it would slow down, which creates an issue. But, you're probably talking minutes as opposed to, hours of slowing down. If you're interested in speed bumps, I would say probably closer to North Valley Park. I'd have to work with the city engineer on some exact locations and maybe, midway on Key Lock. Quite frankly, I would suggest that we try the radar feedback signs maybe prior to speed bumps, but...
And I do think, just to follow on to what the chief is saying, that it has been difficult to get speed bumps or speed humps in those areas anyway, and so it's potential that the fire district wouldn't allow us to. So I think we need to remember that we the city, you as the council, would not be the final decision makers necessarily. That we would have to have concurrence from fire. So. That one, I think, has some additional hurdles to cross as well.
And maybe unintentionally, we would create a skateboard park up there. I mean, who knows? Seriously, that's quite a hill. Okay, so anybody else have any questions of the chief, or we'll move on to public comment?
I just had one more question, just to for Raina City Manager Schwartz to clarify. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by there was some issues with getting speed bumps in that area? I wasn't clear on what you meant.
Just that the fire district does tend to be sort of anti-speed bump, anti-speed hump, and so we would need to overcome that resistance. And so I just wanted to temper perhaps any enthusiasm for that with the reality that it does require them to agree, and that we might not get that agreement. So.
Is that an actual requirement, or is that like a courtesy?
I would have to check. I don't know if Scott knows offhand from an engineering standpoint, or if we would require that to come about. But we could certainly follow up on that if we have interest from the council on that topic.
Yeah, I think that could influence, how we contextualize that decision making. If it's a requirement, then obviously, if the law says that the fire department needs to sign off on any speed bump you put in, then we should do that. But if we're not, then I think that would be discretionary. So I think it's important to know what the actual rule is. I'd like to know.
My staff, you got to love the ability to multitask. That it is from a planning standpoint, it is required for us to have the fire district to in agreement on that topic.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have several hands raised as I see. So Janet, if you could open up public comment, 3 minutes per person. We'll have the timer there for you to look at. If you're on the phone, we'll let you know when you have about 30 seconds left or so. So I see we have Clifford Seaholm first.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, as stated, I am Clifford Seaholm. My wife, Flora, and I are 18-year residents of Clayton. We live at the top of Keller Ridge, at Keller Ridge and Elk. And I'm speaking on behalf of Jason and Fred. I'd like to thank the City Council for addressing this safety issue. I'd like to speak in favor of 3 of the recommendations and against 1 of the recommendations. In terms of against, I'm very much against the wood fence idea or cinder block fence idea. While I totally agree that it'll fix the problem, it also totally eliminates the view for all. And I think a lot of people live up here for that view. And additionally, putting up a wood fence or cinder block fence is going to create and attract graffiti, tagging. So you better throw in some money in your budget for the maintenance crew to come up and repaint the wall every week. So totally against that one. In terms of the wrought iron fence, that would be fine and probably would eliminate the issue of people going down to the tower, but would not eliminate the view issue. In terms of what I'm in favor of, I'd like to come out in favor of keeping the red curb. I think that's shown some improvement in the area, at least per my morning and afternoon walks. And so I think that's helped. Would encourage you to, it's like a 90-day pilot, maybe extend that pilot once the weather gets nicer. Second thing I'd come out in favor of is number 4, the speed bumps, both on Keylock and Keller Ridge. The aforementioned speed bumps on Keller Ridge are about a mile down the hill. Trust me, people come sailing up Keylock, and we could definitely use speed bumps on Keller Ridge and Keylock. They're effective. I think the impact to emergency vehicles would be measured in seconds, not minutes. I don't believe it's going to take a fire truck minutes to get over 2 speed bumps. I'd also like to, I'm in favor of the surveillance camera, but I do accept that the expense there may not warrant its use. So if we're not going to get a surveillance camera and people are going to continue to congregate there, could we at least get a trash can so we could get the garbage disposed of there versus around the cul-de-sac? Thank you.
Thank you, Clifford. Okay. Who do we have next, Janet?
Our next speaker is Terry Smith, followed by Nancy Beaver.
Hi, I think I've unmuted.
You are.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, my name is Carrie, and I am Speak for Fred. It was my dog and my husband that was hit, and I am here to tell you that I am not very pleased with what the chief has said. Number one, I want to tell you, I have seen firsthand bonfires out in the middle of the street here, time and time again. I have seen people throw lit cigarettes into light the grasses up, and I'm worried because there's one way in and one way out up here. I'm worried that we're going to catch on fire because these people are coming up here and they're starting fires. They think it's funny. It's not funny. It's not funny that they're coming up here fast and hot and furious. It's like spring break up here every night. I can't sleep. I had to buy a sound soother to block out all the sound from the boom, ba-ba, boom, ba-ba, boom, all the music that goes on. I'm tired of picking up the trash. I'm tired of asking them to turn the radio down. I'm tired of picking up the used condoms and the used tampons. I'm tired of dealing with the speeding and being scared about walking in the street. I'm just tired of all of it. And I don't think a fence is going to help. I think something else has to be done. I think cameras, I think tickets, I think lights, I think more police. We have had a serious fire issue. Fireworks were crazy on July 4th up here. And we're like a tinderbox up here. We're going to all light on fire. And you have 2 police officers on? How the hell are you going to tell us to get out of here in a safely fashion? I have a go bag, but if I can't go because there's only one way in and one way out, how am I going to get out of here? This is unacceptable. Something has to be done. We are not safe. Period. Not safe. Children are not able to play. I see children wanting to roller skate, wanting to ride their bikes, wanting to play basketball, and they can't. Walkers who are scared to walk. This is not okay. It's not safe. I have watched this gradually get worse over 20 years of being here. This is not okay. I don't want to hear any more garbage from you. I want something done. And by the way, Cliff, who was nice enough to not bring up the fact that he can't back out of his driveway safely because he is at a blind intersection. He needs a speed bump there. And I don't know, the guy that has a house that's down on Keller Ridge where they have the lemons, how the heck do you get out of your driveway when them going so crazy? They're crazy up here. It's not safe. Period. End of sentence. Not safe. And then Rebecca across the street, Holly came up yesterday. I sent her video of people hopping into her backyard to get a picture. She is a single mom with children, and they're hopping into her backyard? What the hell? It's not safe. Jesus, do something. I'm done. I am finished with you people. It's not safe.
Thank you, Carrie. And we do hear you. Who do we have next, Janet?
Our next speaker is Nancy Beaver.
Hello, Nancy. connecting to audio right now. Can't hear you yet, Nancy. We can't hear you at all. Janet? Is there something you can do there?
Access her audio. All I have is a camera showing on my end.
We can see her, but we can't hear her.
If she could show her phone number again, she may have a phone number that is, if she's called in on the phone number, we can allow that phone number to go. So Nancy, if you, something 00, okay, 8856. No, I don't see that number.
It's 8656.
Actually, I think I have it on the iPad now.
Okay, now we can hear you. There's a bit of an echo there.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right. All right. Well, my name's Nancy Bieber, and I am a 23-year resident, original owner right here on Key Lock Way. And my portion won't take it won't take the time that I'm allotted. But first of all, I want to say that I totally echo what Carrie had said about, I too worry about if there is a fire up here, there is one way out. And so, yes, that is one issue. But I would like to ask, speed bumps, $10,000? I mean, golly, am I in the wrong business? What would cost $10,000 for asphalt across the road with yellow stripes, even maintaining it? Is that number based upon basically based upon what? And would we have the opportunity to lower that cost if we were to bid that out? And thank you. That's my question.
That's all? Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Sorry you had so much trouble getting in, but good to hear from you.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we have now, Janet?
Mary McCarthy.
Mary, are you there?
Okay, I am muted.
There you are. There you go.
Okay, so I live up at the top of Key Lock Way. I can see everything that you're talking about. I've been here 22 years. My husband Brian and I are original residents. I live a couple doors up from Carrie and across the street from Rebecca. I just want to thank you for having this, finally, after 22 years, paying some attention to this big problem up here. And I'm thankful that the council people came up here, but I would like to be part of the conversation when they do come up again. And I know we're in the middle of a pilot now that Cliff brought up and the chief brought up. I think that should be extended some with the curve being more than during the winter. But I really think we need a more formalized committee to really dig into some of this a little bit more with input from the neighbors, but a committee that can really sit down and, discuss it. These sessions are good, but the fact that, there's a lot of things being thrown around and not everybody's voices might be here. If there was some way to have a committee of people that, have lived up here and experienced firsthand what the problems are, to be on that committee. And I guess I just hope that no decisions are made rashly and that we really try to solve this problem once and for all. And as I've spoken to a couple people downtown, it's not only the physical side of things, putting a light or putting speed bumps, but the big thing is also enforcement. If we're not going to have enforcement, very good enforcement, then all of these things are kind of for naught. They're discouraging, but the speeding needs to be really somehow enforced. And I know there's only 2 police officers, but we need to figure out some of this stuff. And that's all I wanted to say this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And do we have anyone else, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I have one last speaker, Letitia Smithwick.
Okay. So Letitia has 30 seconds.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to Holly and Peter for coming up and actually seeing what we go through on a daily, hourly, all 24 hours a day basis. And also special thanks to Officer Wiggins and Johnson for always coming out and, writing the tickets and everything like that. I know we can't come up with an answer or solution right now, but we do have to work together as the community, because without sharing, like Mary said, she's my neighbor, and we have to work together to make sure everybody's okay. You can't just put a wall and be all, okay, it's done, because there's repercussions of that. You can't just put lights because, some kids might break it. I think that's a really good idea Mary has, to have the committee as a whole, as the whole community come together, because there's various ages. There's young people, there's old people, and we just want it to work. But it's really sad when you live here and your kid's in bed at 10 o'clock at night and people are playing their music and flashing the lights in the rooms. And I've called, honestly, the whole time that this curve has been read, let's say, I think it's 43 times out of the whole time the curve's been read since December. And I think we should extend it. Maybe that should be a permanent thing. There's no answer today, but we need to find an answer where, we don't even feel safe going out at night or in the day. And that's pretty sad, because you don't know who's across the street. You don't know who's coming around the corner, how fast they're driving. So what do we need to do as a community to make it safe for everyone? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else before we bring it back to the council? We do. Okay.
Yes, Mayor Wolf, I have 2 more speakers. I have Jay Gordon, followed by Brian Kincaid.
Okay, we'll wait for Jay to unmute. There
Jay Gordon has unmuted.
There you go. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I live on Key Lock, just down the street from the last 2 or 3 people that have been on here this evening. Some of us have purchased these little slow man statues to put out at the curb. And as much as I hate to admit it, I actually think they're fairly effective, because the speed of the cars going up and down the street has certainly gone down in the last 30 days. I don't think the volume of cars has changed, but the speed has certainly helped. I'm reminded when I listen to the solutions that the chief went through of my criminology class when I was in college. The best way to lower the crime rate is to stop writing tickets and stop reporting crimes. The crimes continue, but if you don't report them, then it looks like the crime rate's going down. The fact that we haven't written a lot of tickets in the last few weeks doesn't mean that the infractions have gone down. It just means that there haven't been people there when the patrolmen and patrolwomen come up to our circle. The last thing that I would like to ask, that at least we put into some context here, and that is, it seems like a lot of the solutions are punitive to the people who live up there. Putting up a fence, putting up the ugly barriers is not a good solution. if it's punitive to the people who live on Key Lock and particularly on Key Lock Circle. I think the red curb has helped. It hasn't eliminated the problem, and it certainly hasn't slowed down the speeders. And putting up an ugly barrier in the bulb of the circle is punitive to the people that have to look at the damn thing, as would be a bright light, as would be the sonic boom that, or the sonic sound thing that would negatively impact the children that are trying to play up in that area also. So I don't think we've come up with the best solution. Whoever it was that said they'd like to be involved in the decision making and the division or the visit when Holly and Peter and Jim are up here visiting, I would like to be a part of that as well. And I feel that there is a solution. I just don't think that we've hit upon it. And certainly the recommendation that the chief is making about the fence is just an atrocious idea. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jay. We have one more speaker.
That is correct. I'm promoting Brian Kincaid right now.
Congratulations, Brian.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah. So I agree with some of the comments about enforcement, and I've lived in Clayton for the last, I think, 20-something years. Grew up in the area, and I can tell you when I was a kid learning to drive and, going out with my friends, you knew not to come into the city of Clayton because you were going to get pulled over and asked why you were here, right? With kids around doing what kids do, you stayed away. That's not the same today. So if we don't want kids running up and down this street and they do come flying in, then we need to enforce. We need to do something, right? One of the things that I don't know how effective it is, but the police car that's parked on Keller Ridge every so often, when you're driving down, me trying to follow the law, I see it, I slow down even more than I'm already going up and down that street. So have we thought about putting a police car up near that red curb and see what happens, right? I'm not a big fan of all the things that I've heard. I'm frankly kind of surprised that our chief of police is going out and looking at all these things rather than enforcement. I mean, we seem to be looking at alternatives rather than, coming up with, okay, we have 2 police officers. What do we do? So, maybe we need a check-in, right? I've seen, places where you scan a badge, right? Maybe you can put it on a light pole. How many times we actually have a police officer coming up here, right? At the end of the day, I've lived up here for a long time. I rarely see any police cars. So I'm questioning whether or not we actually are coming up here as often as we may be suggesting we are or think we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm sure that Councilmember Diaz agrees with you with regard to the former time in Clayton when people would come here or loath to do anything wrong in Clayton. I understand that. Do we have anybody else?
Mayor Wolf, I have one more speaker, Vala Stabler.
All right.
Can you hear me?
We can, Vala. Thank you.
Okay. My husband and I live on Acorn, and our backyard, we have one of the great houses with the view, and we stand out there and watch the cars racing up the hill, running the stop sign at Key Lock, racing up Key Lock. The noise alone, even at our house, it's just horrible. And we hear it day and night, these engines roaring up and down. And as Carrie was saying also, the fire is a big, big deal. We have always been afraid that we have only one way out of here. And this fire issue is a big deal. And we've seen these kids smoking, even at our fire trail that ends at the end of Elk, and they walk up there. There's cigarette butts everywhere. They're smoking. There's fire danger. It's really bad, this speeding. And I don't think that speed bumps are going to, affect the emergency vehicles, that much. I'm I think we need them, and we need a lot of them, not just one or two. We need more. And I actually scream at cars when I'm walking. I just scream, slow down, because I'm so pissed about it. It's awful. And it's a beautiful place to live, but it is really bad. And we have 2 dogs. And even that high-pitched speaker, if there's dogs living around there, what's that going to do to the dogs' hearing? I mean, Carrie has dogs. It's like that sound will drive them crazy. I don't think that's an answer either. And besides that, they're playing their music and they're just going to turn their music up. It's going to be worse. So, I mean, and the fireworks this year have just, New Year's Eve went till 3 a.m. and we stood on our back patio waiting for police to come, watching. We can see from the apartment building all the way up the hill and never saw a policeman coming, ever, for all the fireworks. So a lot of talk and nothing's getting done. We need something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Do we have any more, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I do not have any other speakers.
All right. So we will close the public comment and bring it back to council for discussion. Who wants to start off? Okay, Peter.
I mean, it's clear that the residents who have spoken tonight during public comment want to be involved in a solution. And I'm not sure tonight that we have enough data or input from the residents in the area to make a recommendation for what we should do. I think there's obviously several options and a lot of opinions. I'm curious if it makes sense to send this back to the Public Safety Committee to actually start those conversations and to have that public involvement to come back with a recommendation from the Ad Hoc Safety Committee to what we should do based on their recommendations and talking to the citizens. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I get it. It's more of a restart of that conversation. Because we did have a conversation with the former ad hoc committee, which I was on, and had quite a lively discussion with the residents there. But maybe, and Jim and Holly, you're on the committee now, you could chime in as to how much involvement you've actually had or you had your hands on since you've started on this committee.
Well, as it relates to this specific issue, which has been the only issue that we've been talking about, talked to the chief on several occasions, talked to residents, getting input from them. I can see us expanding this. My initial thought is relative to mitigating the speeding. I'm a big proponent of going back, and thank you for mentioning it, those days of when Clayton had that reputation that if you speeded in Clayton, you were going to get a citation. And I don't know how we go about doing that again, but we need to emphasize that. With the issue of all of the teenagers that are coming up there and frequenting Keelock, if our city staffing does not allow us to put some people in there, police specifically, then I would suggest, and we need to discuss this at the ad hoc committee level, I would like to talk with residents and see about them considering putting some private security in there. The Clayton station does that. They have contracted with a local security firm who can put somebody in there 24/7, although that's not what's necessary from my view at this point. But somebody that can be up there and dedicated and can be authorized by the residents. And it's going to take some sort of a community resolution. And I'm talking about the affected people in that area would have to have some legal document that says, okay, private security company, you can represent me. You can do whatever it takes to mitigate this problem. But that's an alternative that would put someone there on a regular basis and would, I think, address some of the problems that people are experiencing. I will say this, I've been up there a couple of times, and I've noticed that there's probably at any given time, maybe 3 or 4 people out walking their pets and their dogs and such. So there is a lot of foot traffic up there. Going specifically over to Key Lock Way, I think the red curb has given our existing police officers some actionable items that they can do. And I think that they're doing it with the fact that from December through the first part of January, they issued 47 citations. I think that's what's going to take. And for the speeding, the speed bumps, I'm not a big proponent of them. I've got them right outside of my house here in Windmill Canyon. And I got to tell you, as soon as they clear that last speed bump, it's pedal to the metal till they get down to Oakhurst Drive. With regard to the flashing speed signs, just go down Ignacio Valley where the speed limit is 45 miles an hour before you get to Crystal Ranch. Nobody, unless the police are out there from Concord enforcing it, nobody pays any attention. Those signs are flashing like crazy, and the cars just barrel on through. So enforcement is a real viable option. The question is, how do we do it? How do we fund it? Thank you.
So would your suggestion then be that we take this back to the ad hoc committee and try to explore some new?
You're right. Yeah, I would suggest that, and I would suggest that we convene some sort of a meeting with a group of residents that can give us a consolidated opinion on what they would like to see take place up there.
How well attended was the previous ad hoc meetings? Carl, you were on one, and then I think, was there another one after that, I think?
No, we just did one, but we did one. It was fairly well attended. We got a lot of suggestions, and the chief can tell you. I mean, I think that's where we came from to have her go out and start researching some of the ideas that the residents actually came up with. So it was pretty well attended. That's why I'm a little surprised now, but we want to be sensitive, obviously. I'm sure you do, to the people up there. We don't want to be punitive, as one of the callers said, to the people that actually live up there. It's tantamount to what we did on Regency. We got to be sensitive to those people that live in that area, like Jim was saying just a few minutes ago. So
how many houses are there? Is it like close to 200, or is it? I'm trying to do a count. Do you count Acorn?
I don't know exactly.
I'm just trying to get a sense. Of how big a sample it was versus the population.
Oh, it certainly wasn't 200. I mean, I think we maybe had 60 people on the call at the time. I think we were standing like 56 people or something like that. I can go back and check, but nevertheless, going back to the new safety committee might be the right way to go. Judging by what we're hearing here, certainly some of these people were not involved in that. I know Carrie was. I think Carrie was, and I want to say to Carrie just outright, I hope you're not done with us, because we're not done with you. We're sensitive to this. We're trying to come up with something, and like Jim said, we're limited in our police staff, and that ties our hands in a lot of ways. But we're trying to be as creative as possible. So maybe going back to the Public Safety Committee would be the right thing to do, and get everybody involved that really wants to be involved up there. Holly, do you have something?
I was going to let Jeff finish if he had something else.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, like for example, you mentioned the thing at Regency. I think that group of themselves together, and they had a few spokespersons that really addressed and concisely brought forth what the consensus was for that, and I'd like to see that happen. And I'm willing to do whatever we have to do to get that type of a same cohesive group together for Key Lock and Keller Ridge.
Right. Not everybody.
No, I think that's a good idea. With that, I was just thinking, like, with that many people, it may be difficult to get that type of broad consensus. And so I guess my concern would be if you have, let's say, I'm trying to do a rough count right now. I think it's like 150. If you have 150 houses, if you have 60 people that are really in favor of something, and 30 people who are really against it, I don't know where that leaves you. And so I think going back is probably a good idea to get more input. But at the end of the day, I think it'll be hard to thread that needle. I guess from my view, if there's a clear majority of the residents who want a certain thing, and it's within our ability, like it's not illegal and it's something that we can do, then that I'd be supportive of that. Like, so I don't know. I'm willing to hear more ideas. I think the idea of do something is not really actionable. So to the extent that we have specific items to evaluate, I think that's the best way forward. I guess the one concern that I had, when I listened to everyone have their input, I do agree that in the past, Clayton they did have a reputation about, speeding and whatnot. But I want to be really careful in that we don't go to a point because I think one of the speakers said, if you were a young person and you come up, you're going to get stopped and they're going to ask you why you're here. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, that's just right for bad things happen that way, and I don't think that's a good way to police anyways. And people have, that's a lot of bad things happen when you do that. So that piece I'm not really a fan of. If there are violations, then I'm certainly a fan of enforcement. So anyways.
So we could concentrate, and this is just a suggestion for the committee, but concentrate certainly on those houses right on that cul-de-sac. I mean, there are people that are so affected by this because they live up where everybody congregates. They're talking about New Year's Eve and 4th of July and just on a daily basis that they're having trouble up there on a nightly basis. I can imagine what that's got to be like, not to mention all the people down where the speeding is happening. So maybe starting with those people up there as a catalyst to conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a good direction.
Holly?
Yeah. I was just going to say that to answer Jeff's question, I know that Carrie puts out about 130 flyers when she's trying to notify the residents. She puts those in about 130 homes that are up there. So that your 150 number was pretty close. And she compiled a list of neighbors who kind of wanted to stay in contact. It's not a complete list, but she sent that to me and to Councilmember Diaz, gave us their email addresses so that we can stay in contact with them to let them know what's happening with all of this. So barring us actually coming up with a solution tonight, which it doesn't really sound like we're going to, I like the idea that I heard from several residents of saying to continue the 90-day pilot program with the red curb. That sounds like something that's easily doable. I know a lot of the residents are already, especially Letty Smithwick has been calling in several times. As she said, she's called, I believe, 43 times, I think she said, over the course of this pilot program to lodge her complaints because her house is looking at the bulb, which is where some of the pictures were taken I shared with the chief and with the city manager. So I agree, reaching out to them, having them give more input. It sounds like more residents now want to be involved, which is great. I know that they did have the one ad hoc committee meeting with the prior council members. It would be nice to get some more input from them now, since it sounds like a lot more people are engaged, which is great. They might have some more as I'm not opposed to a speed bump. I live on Keller Ridge. I am just past the second speed bump coming up here. And as Councilmember Diaz said, it doesn't matter if there's speed bumps. As soon as they clear it, they go flying up the street. So whether they're heading to a speed bump or or crossing over one, they just accelerate. So unless you're going to put multiple speed bumps like they have them, I think they have them fairly close on Eagle Peak. Unless they're going to be a lot closer, it's not a deterrent to make people slow down at all. It's just going to be more of a hindrance to make the fire trucks get up the street. Flashing lights, I'm not opposed to that either. It's great, and it will alert people that they're there. But if their intent is just to hurry up and get out of the area or to speed up to the area where they're going, it's not going to matter if it's flashing or not. They know the stop sign's there. Decoy car, I don't know if that's going to be a deterrent or not. As soon as they see the decoy, it's a decoy, they're going to park and get out of the car and continue doing what they're doing. I would like us to discuss ways to address the nuisance that they have with people coming. I believe I was told last night they come between 9 and 3 o'clock. So sunset, yeah, that's an issue. People really want to go get their pictures and look at the view. But with the noise issue, with the neighbors not being able to sleep, et cetera, with the lights flashing in their windows, that's happening when it's dark. I'm not sure what the patrol times are. I don't need to know the times, but how many times we patrol up there in the evening and in the middle of the night. But if there's some way to keep the youngsters from going up there, then that'd be great. I also agree with, I believe it was, maybe it was Mary, who mentioned that there's an issue with the car speeding up the street, an issue with them revving their engines up there. Something else that she had mentioned, with an issue with all the cars flying up the street, making all of the noise, and trying to figure out a way to deter that. I don't know how to address that piece. I know I was getting messages from people asking us if we can have a gated community. That's not a viable option, as we heard. So I do think that us going back and getting it just a little bit more input from the residents would be great, just to see if we can try to get some consensus. We're not going to get all 130 homes to give an opinion. I think most of them might not want to unless they do live closer to the bulb. But I think we should at least start there, and at least now that they've heard what the options are, we know we're going to keep the red curb, but we're still in the middle of the pilot program. There's no harm in extending that, but just to hear them out to see if there are any other ideas that we haven't thought of. The ones that I got tonight were that the sonic sound thing is not an option, just based. I think we should still figure out between now and the next time we possibly have a meeting where those other houses are that have young children and the dogs, because I do recall that residents had an issue with the park, the Grove Park. When it was on for 24 hours, people kept going down and couldn't figure out how come they were feeling ill when they were down there, or their dogs were acting weird when they were going down there. How come their children kept complaining and saying that it hurt for them to be at the park? So the noise, yes, it's a deterrent, but it was a nuisance. And this was probably, I feel like it was at least 3 years ago when residents were complaining, maybe within that time frame. But a lot of residents lodged complaints when it was discussed because it was making people physically ill. So I'm not sure that that's really a solution that we want to pursue, but I would like to know the radius of houses outside or within that 130 feet. Yeah, that's for now.
Peter, you had something?
Yeah, with the noise, even if there's no kids in a specific house at a specific time, if you're putting a noise emitter adjacent to someone's house, I don't know, that seems kind of sketchy. I like the idea of a trash can, even though I think that may that seems kind of like giving up a little bit, but at the same time, but I mean, there's a trail right there, so trash cans on a trail is not a bad idea. It's not it's not out of the ordinary to have a trash can on a trail, although you need maintenance to clear it periodically, so there's that. But that could alleviate at least some of the more egregious things. I mean, or it could make it worse by attracting people. I have no idea.
And I think that's the problem. We don't know what we don't know yet. Yeah, Peter?
No, I mean, it's pretty clear the people who live at the end of Key Lock are suffering the worst from this. And not only do we need to say, I mean, I get this, the traffic and speed is an issue on Keller Ridge and in Key Lock itself, but it's the loitering and the congregating at the end of the cul-de-sac, which is the primary issue here. And looking at deterrence to that, whatever that looks like, is probably the best way to go is to stop that congregating and parking and loitering there. So I'm going to be with Jay Gordon. We need to figure out a way we can do that that's non-punitive to the residents around that. I just don't think we have enough information about what, number one, the mosquito noise emitter range and effects are relative to animals. So I wasn't aware that it affected animals' hearing, but it certainly makes sense that it might. So I mean, there's not enough information to make an educated decision on that. The idea of a bright LED light being an annoyance, there's not enough information about how that might affect neighbors or cause light pollution in the area. So these are things that need to be brought up, researched, and then discussed among residents. And is that something that they would be in favor of that would not have an effect of their quality of life living in the cul-de-sac? And that's something that the ad hoc committee should research and bring and have those conversations about. So I'll leave it at that.
So are we in agreement then that we're going to send this back to the committee?
I think so. Yes, and we have to do some further reaching out and talking to some of the, for better or lack of a better word, the leadership of the group up there, so that we can get a good sense of what the collective ideas are.
So, Mayor and Council, if I might, what I'm hearing is direction or feedback from the council to have staff take it back with the ad hoc subcommittee and put together a mechanism for community input from the area, and then maybe some refined options to move forward with. I think we're going to see that there may not be across the board agreement, even with community input. And so we may still have some difficult decisions to bring back to the council, but we can certainly do some additional work on that. And so if that is the direction this evening, perhaps we can get a motion to move that back to staff and the committee, and we can take that on along with the feedback that we've gotten tonight, both from the council and from the community.
And maybe we can get some of their questions answered too. For instance, why it costs $10,000 for a speed bump. I mean, people would, I'm sure, would want to know that. Yeah, Peter, do you have one more thing?
No, I agree. I mean, it's important to get back and let the community be involved and send it back to the ad hoc committee. So I so move accordingly.
I'll second.
Second that.
All right, we have a first and 12 seconds.
One first and 4 seconds, but I think Councilmember Tillman said it first.
All right.
Thank you.
You got it? Okay. Janet?
All right, Councilmember Diaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Tillman.
Yes.
Councilmember.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clayton.
Yes.
And
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. All right. So now we're on to the council items for requests for directive for future items. Anybody have anything? Going once, going to, oh, Holly jumped in. There you go.
Yes. I would like to have a future agenda item for us to discuss the anti-racist library that Cheryl Willis, I believe her last name was, brought up, possibly for staff to let us know how viable it is for something. If the residents are raising the money for this to be built, and it sounds like it'll just be like a little library bookshelf. They're raising the money. If we can put that in front of City Hall and where we could put that, just want to have a conversation about that on a future agenda item. And then also a future agenda item to discuss proclamations for the cultural and or heritage months or dates, proclamations for the city to have. And I know that City Manager Schwartz was working on that. So
yes, that is scheduled to come back. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Looks like that's it for tonight. We have no closed session, and so we are going to adjourn now until our next meeting on February 2nd. And thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, good night.